Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm Jeff Howard, and this is going to be a very fun podcast episode because my guest, I'm going to introduce you as H. This is H, the CEO and co-founder of Cinequest. One of the Cinequest Film and Creativity Festivals has such a great reputation. I've always heard great things about it. So when someone from your festival approached me, I totally broke my rules and said, yeah, I'll talk. This sounds great.
Fantastic. Well, we're rule breakers ourselves. We're known as Mavericks, so we love to break rules. Thank you for doing it for us.
Exactly right, because so many rules are stupid, right? You want to if you're about doing things the smart way, you got to break some rules.
Absolutely.
Well, so you are certainly listed as co-founder. So do you want to talk about the founding of Cinequest? Because boy, you had a vision. Because this you started before every single city on the planet had a film festival.
That's right. It was a rad path for me. I was supposed to be a math guy, and I left math because I fell in love with film and movies and books. And I remember my mother on the floor of our little linoleum floor of our poor kitchen, screaming and crying for my stupid decision. And that's just so I started following that passion for that, you know. I had read Joseph Campbell's stuff, and he said, "Follow your bliss." I said, "Well, I like math. I'm great at math, but I really love movies. So sorry, Mom, it's not going to happen." And ironically, I ended up in the Silicon Valley. So the path started. I made an independent feature film. Was extremely lucky and blessed to get it into the Venice Film Festival, and from there that stimulated my founding partner and producer to do our own film festival because we were just blown away. We were these punk kids, and these wonderful people paid attention to our work. I was sweating and shaking, and all these folks from all these places around the globe. You know, I didn't have enough money to travel when I was a boy, so it just blew my mind, and we decided to start a film festival in Silicon Valley. The technologies were emerging there, the communities were global, and you know, to really focus on this combination of artists, technology, and audiences coming together. And so that was why we were founded. Theme was Maverick because we thought, okay, the Maverick for us is the best of the artist and the best of the innovators. You know, the folks that we talk about not breaking rules. They don't do it in the pattern. They don't follow what's just been done. They're speaking from their hearts and their minds and their imaginations, and we love that spirit. So we founded Cinequest under that spirit. It's been very artist meets audience and technology focused ever since.
Yeah, and those worlds really are connected. They've always because as you say, it really is similar inspirations between the Silicon Valley tech world and the creative world because there's a lot of creativity in tech. There's actually a lot of technology in film. And to your mother's, I have sympathy for your mother, but the truth is, filmmaking is a very technical adventure. I understand why. Actually, I was a math major in college, so I get it. Like when you're an analytical thinking person, that kind of mind really does apply itself to filmmaking and also festival running because there's a million moving parts, and if you don't pay attention to them all sufficiently, things don't go well.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the technology. You know, film is the most technologically driven, I think, of the art forms. And we've seen such an revolution of it over the last 3 decades. It's unbelievable.
It is. I mean, yeah, going back 30 years in my head. So Pixar was a thing already, but it really was up in Marin. So you were really quite ahead of the game.
Yeah, we started with the digital technologies and why we were into those. And I remember Spielberg, who's a pretty damn good filmmaker, said he'd never make a film digitally. And then 2 years later, he was only making films digitally. But all of these things that come along, the technologies are really neutral tools. They're all in the hands of the maker, how well they're used. But we thought, hey, digital technologies are going to give more people access. And more people will be able to afford to make quality films. So they won't have to have as much money behind them or as many of the gatekeepers to really make films. And that has played out. it has given a lot of people more access and digital delivery of films through the internet. We were lucky to have board members being the pioneers in that. And it was really laughed at, just like, hey, that's never going to work. You're not going to be able to get a movie through the internet. Okay. Well, that obviously has changed. And, mobile cinema, we've done a lot with AR and VR and other technologies through time and now, AI. But the technologies, they bring opportunity and sometimes challenge.
It does, it does. And yeah, one of the loveliest things for me watching young filmmakers, and sometimes they don't appreciate it, but especially post-production, right? Like a small project really has so many tools at their disposal on a home computer now, whereas 30 years ago, unheard of. Unheard of.
It's unbelievable. I mean, if you think about going from the moviola days to the early digital editing systems now, as you
Yeah.
said, right on
When
people's phones and home computers, it's
right? I
incredible.
mean,
Yeah.
I can remember in the 90s when an Avid was a six-figure machine that only a few people had, and yeah, uh, absolutely crazy.
So
And
access is
actually,
great.
and Cinequest obviously dates back to when you started. I imagine you were getting thousands of VHS tapes in the mail.
Oh, that's right. I mean, for those that are too young to know what that is, it was a crazy little tape thing you stuck in a machine and watched. Yeah, it was a trip. And then the DVD revolution was a big deal. And it goes from there. Now all of our screenings are done through Vimeo links and online. So it's it's really cool to see. But what's most important is the stories that are being told, whatever technology, if it's 16 millimeter film, if it's 4K digital, if it's made on a computer or made with live action cinematography. What is the story that's being told? That's the end part about it, and that's the other half of our or third of our equation, which is Cinequest has remained very true to the concept of discovery, and we still, amongst our friends, I think of the large festivals that we are the highest in terms of percentage of our programming coming from open submissions, and that's a big deal to us. We really because we feel like artists need people to open their hearts and minds to what they're doing and the newcomers and also some of the old comers. Some people sometimes it takes them 4 or 5 films for it to be their breakthrough. And so, that discovery of story and voice from all walks of life is just a really exciting part of, as you know, that is probably, the most exciting thing about doing film festivals, followed by seeing folks show up, see these movies, and meet with the artists and each other and community building. Those are the powers and magics of all the best film festivals.
Absolutely. And I'm sure it's particularly as you mentioned, it's satisfying for you because at Cinequest, you do bring in some absolute top level a talent and draws attention, but then you are also supporting that indie community, that up and coming community. So you really are doing a wonderful service for those people because Lord knows, for them it's really hard to get in the door at the bigger
Very
festivals.
hard. It's very hard. And and that's interestingly been the one thing that technology hasn't solved as much. We've learned how to distribute and open up marketing opportunities for people, and making films have been democratized. But it's still there's a lot of gatekeepers when it comes to those bigger audiences and flows, getting your film. So when you give these artists a chance to connect with audiences, to appreciate and to further the life of their film, it's huge. Yeah.
Absolutely. And looking I'm looking at the thing. There it seems like you have also made a concerted effort to help that filmmaking community with other avenues like Creatics and Maverick Studio and whatnot. Is that all part of the
Right.
same philosophy?
Yes, we've had a distribution company where for a while we successfully distributed 90 films, features, and we have Pictures of Possibilities global youth work to help youth create. not just films, but other works, their dreams of theirs. We have a sister company called Creatix. It's a platform and services and ecosystem for creative people to elevate their capacities and to build audiences and paying audiences is the ultimate focus of this platform and service. And yes, we produce films too because for us it's understanding the script to screen. I call it kind of workflow and ecosystem. And there's a lot of from screenwriting. We do a lot to focus on writers, and we do have a screenplay celebration and storytelling celebrations annually and competitions because it starts there. Unless most films are made with a script, and not every one of them are. Some are improvised and with no scripts, but mostly. So, just seeing that whole script to screens workflow and being a part of that, helping to innovate in certain areas and to keep working to meet some of the challenges that producers and makers of film meet. Constraints are, some of the things they have to deal with, and we're there to help for sure.
Yeah, in
And
fact, we're always right. We're always seeing a need for entities and companies to help people because the system really has been going through so much change that
yeah,
there's really no clear path for a new and up and coming creative.
this is true. We're calling it the creator's economy, but it's a very undefined. If you're right, there's not paths are confusing and but the great thing is the people that they find a way, and that is just really, really amazing. And if they have a few people encouraging them and helping them, if there's a story burning inside of them to be told, they seem to find a way. We have our best lineup here. We feel at Cynic, we always feel that, I guess, but this year the quality is just so great. And you see folks making these films from all cultures and walks of life and ways of thinking. And that too, for festivals at large, when I used to go to festivals when I had a little more time, it was always what I loved about them was this, wow, I can step into all these cultures. I can get this experience, 4 or 5 of these a day I was taking in of different people and the way are the thinking, age groups, countries. And a film festival that's great is just the opposite of the diversive kind of thinking that says my way is right and yours is wrong. And we get that all the time in politics and social media. So at Cinequest, it's really cool to embrace all those people with different political ideas and philosophies and thinking and to see the way they tell their stories and that's just, at Cinequest, it's just just so exciting. But it's also the trademark, I think, of all the great film festivals and what film festivals do best.
Absolutely, and it is very exciting because the other thing the internet's given us is access to people all around the world, right? Like I'm frequently amazed by the number of I don't know what to call the generation that's between 20 and 27 right now, but I see so many films from people born and raised in China, often coming to the United States for film school, and that wasn't happening 20 years ago.
No, there's no way. Yeah, that core Gen Z group is really, really, they're quite amazing in the creative space. But yeah, it is just in the global access and communication. We would see if you go back 2 decades, for example, we would see programming. Yes, we would see films from many of these cultures, but they would be, there were a couple highly produced films made every year in these different countries. And most of the independently produced films were very hard to watch, very poorly done, technically and artistically. Not the case today. Yeah, we you see just such great filmmaking and storytelling from across the globe, and it's exciting to see, and it's a great way for people to share and to break through. I mentioned politics sometimes, unfortunately, can divide cultures and countries and people, but so this is a a nice way to do the opposite, to interact and unite. Art does that so well.
Very much, yeah. It creates a global community of artists, and I tend to use the phrase a little too often, but they truly are citizens of the world, and many of us consider ourselves citizens of the world and really see the borders and the divisions between cultures. There's more universal connections between us than there are differences, and the art of film absolutely brings people together.
I would be hard pressed to think of anything that has promoted what you just mentioned more than film, because it's just such a powerful medium for cultures to connect with other cultures and for us to understand. Yeah, it's hard to, I mean, these festivals, I used to think of them as, oh, wow, I can't run around and travel to 5 countries today and actually go into a poor community in Afghanistan, then a rich community in New York City, then a lower middle class youth in Mexico. I can't do that in 5 places at one time. And man, you watch these films, I feel like I've just engaged with all these different people. And it's a very cool thing that film has done for people at large. And the film festivals just are the best at that for sure.
For sure, because yeah, because there's well, I guess this is quite egotistical for us, but it's because they're coming from the right place,
Yeah,
and literally festivals exist to exhibit work, right? And shine a light on it. And I was going to add to what you were saying that filmmaking is storytelling, and the human beings have told stories since we were hunter-gatherers. And I think that's what makes it more universal because, if you look at fine art and paintings from another culture or poetry or novels, the it's when you get down to storytelling that it really just becomes a global human way to connect.
absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. And the light of the campfire going onto the wall, even with those, that's film. I mean, we're kind of in those cave. If you go to a theater, which a lot of us still love to do, or if you go into your living room, or watch your device, it's usually you're in that kind of cave kind of story, and you're getting inside of that space, the inner life, and connecting with others. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's so powerful. It's so powerful to watch a film, from a culture you're quite unfamiliar with. In our last festival, we had one from Bahrain, our first one from Bahrain, and it was a little bit of a tearjerker. And the fact that, to be touched emotionally by work from someone on the opposite side of the globe who you would have never met otherwise, it's just a special thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Powerful.
And I assume you are in the thick of it because your festival begins how soon? In a few
It
weeks?
begins on March 10th, and we just launched our lineup last Thursday, so Thursday and Friday. So yeah, we're really
You're
part
you're
of launching the lineup, as you know, for film festivals is huge because we have to present, as you mentioned, and shine a light on these new movies, and many of them have not been seen before. Lots of world premieres at Cinequest this year, so we have to craft presentations, marketing materials, the site, all these pieces that go into these experiences for people. So yeah, the launch is a big deal, and then the energy starts going. So it's just crazy from here on out.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. In fact, I believe we've chosen March 6th for this podcast to release out to the world. So
Oh,
just
sweet.
four days from now, people should try to be. It's mostly in San Jose.
It has annually been mostly in San Jose. This year we're half in San Jose and half in Mountain View. We have this incredible new Alamo Draft House venue in Mountain View. So we have the performance venues, big theaters and stages in San Jose, which is a really cool thing for us. And then we have the really state of the art, you know, multiplex in Mountain View. So that's a really cool combination. And yeah, and at the Mountain View, if you're not familiar with where Mountain View is, that's the home of Google, very close to Apple and Cupertino. So it's really the core of the Silicon Valley. And And we're our cultures here. We're global, and we do a virtual festival too. This is completely global called Cinejoy. But Cinequest, the Silicon Valley is a very amazing place. It's like New York City or the best of the cosmopolitan places, London, Paris, etc. Where, but people really, it's a great environment because people do well here in terms of interacting with each other, and we have a very strong Asian communities. Many of almost every Asian country is strongly represented here. Our Latino and Hispanic communities are vibrant and dynamic. Black American communities powerful. So in European, and so it's just a really cool place to do what we do because there's the technologies, yes, but then there's this as we keep talking about the global experiences, which we like best. We also have that in the fabric of our day-to-day life. So it's a natural thing. Yeah.
And that's very nice that you're in those two locations because Lord knows the Bay Area is I've actually always loved the Bay Area, even if I've been SoCal most of my life. In fact, this insane coincidence is that I went to college in the central coast of California and had two important girlfriends. One was from San Jose and the other from Mountain View.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we know how to
So,
pick them, don't we?
so when Thanksgiving
Yeah.
came around, I was driving, whatever holidays, I was familiar with driving to both, but it's
You
wonderful
know
that you
very
can cover that kind of territory too.
Yeah, it really is. And yet, the way we'll do this, we'll keep it so that we keep our visitors and artists focused. And we'll do San Jose basically first. There's a little overlap, and then Mountain View. And so they'll love that. They love it when again, the connecting part of this. It's whether you come to connect as an audience member, a member of the media, or an artist. It is the part of this that's beyond viewing a great movie. And there's that part too. That's we all love the movies, of course, but it's that thing. Wow, there's the artist. There's another person. There's that thing that I can't get staying at home, and so that part of it is really cool. And having the ability to focus. Our two venues in San Jose are just a block and a half apart, and then this one venue in Mountain View. So everybody just interconnects constantly versus running around town or taking transportation all day.
Yeah, yeah, that'll wear you out. And Lord knows it just means so much to watch a film with an audience, with other people, and then discuss it afterwards. I always say, some of those festivals that just crank the films out and there's no sense of community or anything. And like if you're just gonna watch the films and not actually have the community share the experience, everyone should just stay home and that there's value to people being together.
Yeah, Jeff, I think that sharing thing is just the best of it. I mean, some people don't want to share. That's fine. They don't have to. But it is something that most people, we're social beings, as we know, and just being able to converse, talk, and it makes it so much fun. That's just so much fun. That and that part of it, that when I remember one of my favorite members of our community who would probably be typed as a curmudgeon, longtime full festival pass holder, came up to me and said, "I want to talk to you after one of the festivals. Or what's coming? He must not have liked the opening night film, or I just want to tell you that Cinequest gives people so much joy." And for coming from the source, I was just absolutely shocked. And because I think that is what these events do, the great festivals, and you feel a sense of, oh, it's a lot of fun and there's a lot of energy and joy, and people kind of put aside those things that are they're not making their day so good, and they come together and they have a great time, sharing, as you said, and talking and partying, celebrating whatever it is they're doing around a common interest in these films and the artists that make them.
Right. I mean,
Right.
it has happened over the 3 decades that you've been running Cinequest, but but we've gone from a point 30 when you began to today. Today there's so much creating isolation in people's lives. Just
Right.
so many things create isolation, and you create community.
Yeah, and you mentioned my favorite, my favorite demographic, which I'm not in, as you can tell, the Gen Z and Gen Alpha. I love these communities. But one thing that I don't like is the isolation of, you see people walking down the street in a city and they're just looking at their phones. Like, dude, look around. There's some people. There's some buildings. Or here, we're outside. There's some trees. You might check that out. Because even that, there, as you said, there's not only isolating us at home, but even when outside in social situations. Devices are wonderful on one hand, know many of the people that created them, but on the other, they can really just limit your and as you said, isolate. So, and we were the first institute to get closed down in the pandemic. Speaking of isolation in 2020, right as our festival started, COVID hit and hammered Santa Clara County. Um, Cinequest and Stanford closed our doors. We were the first organizations to do that, and then it spread very fast. So that was the most isolating of all. And people are sitting in their homes, of course, and we're all happy that that's not happening right now. But yeah, when we get into live events, it's not just film. We go to music, or we go to a restaurant, or we go walk on the street. It's liberating.
It really is. It really is. And as you said, well, look, one of our great innovations as a species wasn't just the opposable thumb or anything. It was cooperation and communication. We weren't the strongest, toughest. We were smart and we worked together. That's
Yeah,
how
that's
we managed
interesting.
to succeed.
Yeah, the working together thing's huge.
It's huge. It's huge. Well, so with the festival, and I was going to ask you, has it, and this is of course definitely from my point of view, this kind of question. But obviously, during your 3 decades with Cinequest, your role must have changed radically, over the years, you've had to move more and more into management. Would assume like early on, a lot more hands-on and a lot more involved, and now you are the CEO of a big operation.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. And yeah, because when I was first doing it, I was making films, producing films. I had two part-time jobs, and I was volunteering to build up Cinequest for the first year. We were an all-volunteer organization, which I'm really proud of because I love the spirit of volunteering and service. So, and over time, you mentioned that the evolution for me personally, and I still create. I still, not just through our company, but I still write and do films. But it changed for me a lot. And it changed from, oh, I'm this artist that wants to be like Billy Wilder, or name your favorite current for somebody today might be the Coen brothers, or name the artist. All of a sudden, I was like, you know what? I'm really getting a lot out of, yeah, I love to do my work, but it's also really cool to support other people's work. And over time, the value in that, as I became wiser, I resented it at first a little bit. It's like it's taking time away from the stuff I want to do, all the work I do for Cinequest, for all the other artists, and it was very grueling. And but I enjoyed it. But it's like it was kind of, and so less over time. My evolution has been more appreciating of, wow, it's really amazing when we can do something for another person, whoever that might be, a volunteer or the artist. And I still love doing my own creative work, but that's been my biggest evolution. Running companies, it's just like making a film. I love doing it. It's like producing. It's just a lot of, as you said, it's a lot of analytic capacities that meet the creative capacity and problem solving and things you do. So yeah, it's just a grown in scope for sure. It's more diversified now for me though, because I do also work on the platform company Creatix, and I do deal with, ironically, I mentioned leaving engineering, but I work with a lot of engineers and product designers with that, and that's really fun for me as well.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, yeah. Very few people will ever get the experience of really knowing how rewarding it is to support the work of someone you don't know just based on its quality and that it resonates and means something, and just showing that artist support. Honestly, it's just a wonderful feeling
Yeah,
that
yeah,
most people really don't get to experience.
that's right. And you know it. And the appreciation that comes back from so many, because when you do your work, and sometimes, as you know, it takes years to get these films made, sometimes decades, just that somebody appreciated it. I just got an email out of the blue from somebody that I respect very much. I was planning on doing a creative project with. So grateful. And I did not push, I don't do this with our programming team. I don't tell them to put in films because I know the person. So I was like, her film is in Cinequest, and she was so grateful. I was like, this is such a wonderful feeling for me because yeah, I could feel how authentic it was because it's all the people in their film that are going to be appreciated now because of this. And so that's tremendously rewarding to be able to do that or be a
Yeah.
part of that. And
And these attitudes and philosophies filter down throughout the whole festival, I'm sure, and that's why people have a wonderful experience there. Because if the people if the people running it feel this way about the work and the people making it and the overall community of film, then the experience at the festival reflects that. I'm sure of it.
I think it really does, and some of the ones that have been founded by people that have done the art and then do the festivals have really have a lot of that to it because they do appreciate it. My our co-founder Kathleen Powell, I mean, she gave up her work in Silicon Valley to dedicate to Cinequest because she loves artists. Now, she's not an artist by her trade. She's an engineer by her trade. She's a top line mind in engineering, but she so loves artists. And she had gone to a casting session once and saw what they go through just to try to get a role in a film. And it just blew her mind that people would be so dedicated and take such risks with their lives that it changed her life just seeing that and experiencing what the actors go through. And then the directors and writers and the cinematographers, all the people that come together and the makeup team and wardrobe to make these films. It's unbelievable. And most of them really care about it. And yeah, and so it's really amazing when we can unveil their magic to others. Oh, and what we do too, what I think is part of our magic is we're really good at saying, okay, I mentioned all of these different types of films, and you know this as well. We want to get not just audience members into these films, we want to get the right audience members into the right films. So it's like matchmaking. So we work very hard to be clear and to get the audiences to gravitate towards what they might indeed most appreciate. And that is really good too. That helps the artist because when you have, you know what it's like. I mean, people have different tastes and they're interested. So somebody might not. A lot of people didn't like Van Gogh's paintings, right? Now they do, but there's still people that don't like Van Gogh's paintings, and it's just not for them. It's so you try to get the match aligned, and that's also part of the magic. Which when you're doing mass marketing for films, you really can't do as much of that.
No, you can't.
We know our communities.
And I'm sure you love the feeling when whether you overhear it or someone says it to you, when you hear someone say, I don't like horror movies, but that one was good, right? Like when they open their mind a little because they're at a festival and they find out, oh, I'm normally not a slapstick person, but that film had a soul and it spoke to me and I laughed. It really is always wonderful to surprise people.
It's so funny you mentioned that because the genre I personally like the least is horror, but we have a great one this year called Suffocation it's like I actually really like this film. It's a Taiwanese film about some very young kids that have a lot of pressure put on their lives. And it's just like, wow, this is a different kind of horror film. It's way more character and story driven than a lot of them. So that got me.
You and I are probably around the same age because I grew up the horror I grew up on was so boring and just jump scare, boring,
Yeah,
stuff that the genre I never cared for the genre at all, honestly. And it wasn't even the festival that cured me. It was our now college student. She she came home from a
sweet.
slumber party and said, "I will only watch horror from now on." And
That's hilarious.
I liked watching films with the kids, so I was like, "Okay, you get to choose the movies on Saturday night." And I started learning that there was a whole horror renaissance that I'd missed out on.
Yeah, that's interesting. We learn so much from our children.
We do.
Yes.
We
I think a
do.
lot more we learn from our parents personally. I mean, I don't, that just their children are just such teachers. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, if you have an open mind, if you
Yeah.
you can absolutely pick stuff up from them. Well, that's excellent. Anything else you'd like to mention before we run?
No, the Cinequest lineup, the people can check it out at cinequest.org. It's a very powerful lineup. I mentioned we have 143 world and US premieres. As you mentioned, we've got big names like Steve Zahn and Vivica A. Fox coming to receive our Maverick Spirit Award. That's what we give to people the past, Harrison Ford, J.J. Abrams. That's our legendary artist award. And 90% of our lineup is from open submissions, lots of cultures of all genres, really strong in comedies this year. Really, really strong. It's a great year for us in comedies. So if you like to laugh, which is my favorite thing to do when I'm not being so serious about producing everything, but that is my favorite thing to do, laugh. And and that I think you probably know this, very hard to find really well done comedies often. So very, very excited about our comedy lineup.
Comedy is
And
by far the hardest genre, which is why it's so upsetting that it gets ignored by big shot award shows. But plus, I bet you've probably experienced this too. First couple years after the pandemic, people were not laughing. People were making
that's
some very serious work for a while, and I kept thinking to myself, you need to make us laugh right now. We need to laugh more than
interesting.
ever. And I understood all the stories that were end of the world analogies, but thank goodness comedy's made its comeback.
Absolutely. I remember one of our top people, an incredible young year old, was working as my right hand that year, 23 years old. And he said to me, I'm so damn depressed. I said, why? Well, I had to look at the program. I was checking out the program for this year and so many depressing films. And this was 2021. And I said, well, were they poorly done? I said, no, they were really well done, but depressing. I said, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry about that." He had to just, can I take a week off? He said, "Yeah, you can take a week off. Just don't think about it. We're gonna be okay."
Take a
But
week
yeah,
off and watch some classic comedy.
yeah,
Yeah, recover. Yeah, Lord, no, I actually think the comedy is better at the festival circuit than it is at coming out of Hollywood right now. I can't remember
absolutely.
the last wonderful comedy. Honestly, I have to go back to Bridesmaids for the last time there was a film out of Hollywood that everyone was like, "This is hilarious. You've got to see it."
That's why I finally saw what it was. I think it was 2017. I would been looking for one too. The Death of Stalin with Buscemi. Now that one made me laugh my
That
ass
was
off. But
very funny.
but the it's very rare and it's hard to do, as you say, and it's hard to do smart comedy. And something that's original. It's very, very hard. So that's why I'm extra excited this year for our lineup because wow, people are going to laugh a lot.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Well, in the show notes for this podcast, we'll have all the links. Your wonderful publicity and media director, Liz Bostwick, has sent me a bunch of links, so we'll put them all in the show notes so that people can go right to it and
Sweet.
make sure that they support Cinequest. And it was a pleasure to meet you.
Likewise, a real honor, Jeff. I appreciate it very much.
I appreciate it. And I normally ramble off a bunch of websites at the end of this podcast, but you know what? We've hit a nice point, so I'll just add all those will be links in the show notes as well. So
Sweet.
everyone
Thank you.
listening, hit the links in the show notes for some great stuff. And thank you again, H. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Jeff. Do appreciate it.
All right. And thank you, everyone, for listening.